So you want healthy and homemade meals, but you don't want to spend hours or even 1 hour in the kitchen. Well, today I've got the solution. In fact, I've got 3 solutions. Why not try this speedy green pasta with smoky glazed tofu? Or option 2, this fragrant rice and tofu dish that comes together in one pan. Last but not least, we've got this delicious Harissa braised cauliflower and beans with fluffy couscous. First, let's make this incredibly delicious pasta dish, and I've got a great tip for making it even easier. But first, we're going to prepare this smoked tofu by dicing it and getting it into an air fryer. You could also use a frying pan or oven if you'd like to. Simply add to your air fryer and toss in a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to air fry it until it starts to crisp up. Now for the pasta, bring a pan of water to the boil with a good pinch of salt to season the pasta. Add your brown spaghetti and once soft, bend in using your tongs until fully submerged. Now for the trick, place a sieve or colander into the pan and add your greens of choice. I'm using kale here, plus a clove of garlic. Place a lid on top and allow your greens and spaghetti to cook. The sieve is going to allow us to take the greens out easily and make a delicious green sauce. Now we'll make a glaze for the tofu, which is going to include maple syrup, soy sauce, and smoked paprika. Add it to your tofu and we're going to cook it for an additional few minutes until sticky and glazed. You'll now have these beautiful little chunks of smoky glazed tofu, which are going to contrast perfectly with the fresh pasta.
So good.
So the veggies have had about 5 minutes cooking and they're ready to come out and go into the blender. Use tongs if your hands are a bit more heat sensitive than mine are. Then allow the pasta to finish cooking, drain it, and keep some of the pasta water for our sauce.
Ooh. Perfect.
This is one of my favourite recipes after a long day of work, and it's just lovely, comforting, and incredibly quick. So for the kind of pesto sauce here, we're going to add some basil, some nutritional yeast, cashews, and the juice of a lemon. You could add some zest, but if you've had a long day, then you probably don't want to be zesting lemons. Season with salt and pepper and add some of that pasta water. We'll now blend it into a beautifully smooth green sauce. Now we're ready to simply pour the vibrant green sauce onto the pasta and mix to combine. I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid I would cut my spaghetti up and shovel it in with a spoon. Thankfully now I've learned to twirl it with a fork in a somewhat civilized manner. Serve up and top with glazed smoky tofu, some extra basil leaves and some vegan parmesan if you'd like to. Oh yes, that is really tasty. It's essentially pesto pasta but with the added nutrients of kale blended in, and then you've got the chewy, salty and smoky tofu to contrast against the fresh flavours. Really tasty, and it comes together super quickly. Next up is this Chinese inspired rice that is a one-pot dish, so minimal washing up is required. For the broccoli, I like to keep the stalks and florets separate, so we can cook the stalks from the beginning and then add the florets later on so they don't overcook. This recipe has a little bit more chopping, but it is very quick to cook, almost like a stir fry. For the spring onions, I'm going to keep the white parts separate from the fresh green tops, which we'll use later in the cooking and also as garnish. So a few are just cut on an angle to go on top. Next I've got a red pepper and I'm going to prepare it by top and tailing it, and then the green part should just fall out like so. Then cut down the middle and we're just going to glide the knife through the pepper, easily removing the core, and it won't leave you with seeds all over your chopping board. Then just dice and that'll be ready to cook. Now for some lovely fragrant ginger, and I'm guessing most of you know the trick to use a teaspoon to remove the skin, but just in case, it is a really good way to do it. I don't always remove the skin, but as I'm keeping the ginger slightly larger today, I'm going to be slicing it into little thin batons. I don't really want any of the skin on there. For the coriander, like with the spring onions, I'm going to finely chop the stalks and cook them from the start, and then the more delicate leaves we'll add in later on. Now we'll cook this delicious rice dish, and it's going to come together in literally no time at all. So we're going to start with a good glug of sesame oil. If you can get toasted sesame oil, that is going to be best for flavour. Then just simply crumble in the tofu into rough chunks. I like a variety of sizes, so some bits caramelise and then some bits are a little bit more softer. Let this fry for about 5 minutes until lightly golden. Of course, we're going to season it with some salt and pepper. Next to go in is the veggies, the ones that are going to cook for a little bit longer, such as the broccoli stalks, the white part of the spring onion, coriander stalks, and the red pepper. Simply toss this or stir this through and fry for a couple of minutes. Now we're going to add some Chinese 5-spice, which is a lovely fragrant mix of star anise, cloves, cinnamon, Szechuan peppercorns, and fennel seeds. We're also going to add a little bit of turmeric. These spices are great because they have anti-inflammatory effects in the body, and they also help with digestion. Then add your ginger and rice and let it fry for just a minute or so, and then follow it up with some soy sauce and some rice wine vinegar. Then we'll add our veggie stock, place the lid on top, and let it simmer away. Cook for 6 minutes, and then we're going to add the rest of the veggies, such as the broccoli florets and the spring onion tops. I'm using white rice as it's quick to cook, but you could use brown rice. You just have to add the veggies later on in the cooking as it's going to take longer. Then add some peas and sweet corn, followed by zested garlic. I'm adding this slightly later in the cooking process so it's more dominant in flavour compared to if you were to add it at the beginning. Cook for another 6 to 8 minutes, and then we're going to remove the lid and replace it with a tea towel. This is going to allow the dish to steam and let the rice to fully cook. Then we're going to add some fresh coriander and some sesame seeds to finish the dish off. So that is your fragrant rice and tofu dish. I'm just going to garnish it with a few of those spring onions, and that is ready to go. Wow, yeah. That's a good one. So good. This is absolutely loaded with different flavors and textures. You've got ginger, garlic, sesame, and then you get a nice warm buzz coming from that Chinese 5-spice. Very little washing up with this dish, as well as it is a one-pot one. Yeah, super tasty. Definitely give this one a go. Last but not least, we have these beautiful braised cauliflower and beans in a harissa sauce and some fluffy couscous. Start off with some finely sliced garlic, and then we're going to prepare the cauliflower, starting by removing the outer leaves. These can be used for a stir fry, a stew, or just roasted on their own. They're really delicious, so don't throw them out. First remove the outer pieces, and then we're going to cut the rest into large pieces. Some cauliflower stalks don't really keep the florets together, but this dish will work just fine with just plain cauliflower florets. In fact, it will cook quicker. Because I'm going for a Moroccan vibe today, we're going to add some preserved lemon, simply by removing the seeds and finely slicing. Now I've got some parsley, and like with the coriander, we're going to keep the stalks and the leaves separate so that I can cook the stalks from the beginning and then add the leaves later on. We can now start cooking, so we're going to heat up a good tablespoon or 2 of extra virgin olive oil. Now add in your cauliflower and pan fry until golden brown on each side. Should take about 2 to 3 minutes per side. Then we'll add in the garlic and parsley stalks and just fry for about 30 seconds. Follow that up with some coriander powder and cumin powder. Then we're going to add in the preserved lemon and a few good dollops of smoky harissa paste. I love using pre-made paste like harissa as they're packed with flavour from spices, herbs and chilies. Let everything sizzle for a minute or so, and then we're going to pour in some passata and veggie stock. I'm using passata instead of chopped tomatoes as it would take too long for them to break down, and this is a quick weeknight meal of course. Then you can add in your white beans and your parsley, and we're going to let it simmer for 6 to 8 minutes until the cauliflower is beautifully soft. To test this, you can just slide a knife into the cauliflower and it should go through without too much resistance. Now we're going to make almost like a hummus type dip by adding some of the beans and the harissa sauce to a blender. Then top it up with some tofu for additional protein, nutritional yeast and a squeeze of lemon, and we're just going to blend it until perfectly smooth. This is a really easy, quick way to boost the protein content of this dish, but it's not 100% necessary if you don't want to do it. Add some more parsley to your braised cauliflower and beans, and then we're going to make some really quick, fluffy couscous. Simply add hot stock to the couscous with salt, pepper and some olive oil, then place a lid or cling film over it and leave for 5 to 8 minutes until all the water is absorbed. This has got to be the quickest cooking carbohydrate, and I tend to add a little bit more water than most people as I really hate dry couscous. Once it's absorbed all the veggie stock, you can just fluff it up with a fork and that is going to be absolutely delicious. Now you're ready to serve, starting with a good dollop of hummus, then the couscous, the roasted cauliflower, and then some of those braised beans and the sauce. This dish takes slightly longer than the others, but it's definitely worth it, and you can actually present it quite beautifully. Really nice. Cauliflower is perfectly cooked. This is really tasty. You've got lovely, warm, slightly smoky harissa going through it. And then you've got fluffy couscous. You've got that really creamy tofu and butter bean sort of hummus dip. And the lovely charred cauliflower. Definitely give this a go. Takes slightly longer than the other recipes, but I think it's worth it. If you're looking for more plant-based goodness, then be sure to subscribe and check out this video.